We collaborated on a couple of things with texture. This is black ink, and then I literally went through and carved it. So there's carved through it. Sometimes you want to put the color on before you texture. Sometimes you put it on after you texture. In this case, black. I'm going to show you how to do this too. Be careful, the lid's loose. I don't have many of these boxes. So. This is also a sample of texturing, which I did with the engraving tool along the sides. You can't see it, it's a subtle texture, but it is, it's there, and it just enhanced, we thought, the box and the decoration for this box. There's also a little bit of chatter work on the top of this one. You can also, if you want to go ahead and do texture in another way, you can also use paint to do that. So this is just a fabric paint that had a little texture to it. Just for fun, I wanted this little guy to have some different definitions, but you can run your finger over it and feel the different textures there. And this spindle has some variations on using the engraver, which most of you probably have. This has some different textures that I put through, and then I used some wax, which I brought along so I can show you that, just to give you some different ideas of textures you can put on. For me, those pieces, I was playing with it in different little circles or following the whole outline of the grain of the wood. It's just giving you, again, we're just trying to push your creativity a little bit. Okay, I'll get to the various things that I put on them in just a little bit, but we're going to take a look at, I put on a bowl, which you're looking at this, and I found this sample bowl, actually it was a rough turn bowl, that has a date of 12th of July, 1996. It's been sitting there a while. It's kind of dry, but magically it's still good enough, and we're going to try to see if we can't put some texture on this. The nice thing by using the sorbet tool is that you do not have to worry about what you're originally getting. If you don't like it, you just and take it off and put it back on. Sorbet tool, there's a couple of things that you have to keep in mind. It does, most of us, when we get our tools, we just go for it. Sorbets did, I don't know if they still do, because this is a thing I've had for years. They gave a one-piece informational sheet. It's not very informative. This is probably, I don't know, 20 years, Dan? 20 years we've had this tool? I don't know. It's not very informative. It tells you some things, most of which I have changed. One of the things it says is that you should select the speed somewhere around 350 RPM. I tend to go faster than that. So it's mostly to get the texture that you want. It's also to get the control that you need. This particular sorbet tool comes with 4 wheels. The wheels are interchangeable, and I'll show you how to do that. It comes pre-sharpened, but like any of our turning tools, you are going to want to sharpen it as you go. We'll cover that in a minute. But as we're going ahead and working with this particular tool also has, it's got a score. I don't know if you can see this. There's a score along the top of the tool, little dust in mine, along the top of the tool, which matches up with the hash marks that are along the plate here. This is actually, we'll call it a tool rest for lack of a better term. But it's also a holding mechanism to hold this cutter in the position where you want it. So when you're doing this, when you're setting it up to start, one of the things that's real important about safety is as you are going to do this, you're going to be moving this so that you can put it where you want it. As you go to move it, what happens is this thing slides, okay? But what you want to do is this score line that's here matches up with the hash marks that are on here, okay? That allows you to set it to the angle that you want. In this case, we're going to go we're going to present the first one. I can see it all the way over so that it's at 90 degrees. And you notice when I was turning it, if you look up here, as you're sliding, this thing slides. So the number one key that I have found that's important with this is that before you start, before you bring it to the work, you have to make sure that the wheel moves freely. Because it's real easy when you're positioning this not to notice that your wheel is not moving freely. So we're going to line it up on the first hash mark, if I can see it. Okay. We're going to tighten it here. And you're just like any of your pieces, you're going to want to go back and forth. You're going to want to tighten it as tight as you can so that it'll stay. Once you've got it tightened, and I advise when you first pick this up, you want to check that it's tight. It's whenever it's in the position, whenever you're picking it up, because I put my stuff on the shelf and I never know if I left it loose or didn't leave it loose. Always check it, because if this moves, then you can bring this up and you're going to mess up your tool. Okay, so safety first. This moves, we're good. The other thing I want you to think about here is when you're using the tool, this flat support, I don't want you to tip it. This support sits on the tool rest like this. Don't tip it like this. Don't do that. Because if you tip it like that, you're just asking for a problem. If you want the tool to be at a different angle, loosen it up, turn it, use the hash mark so you can repeat it. Okay? So we're going to start out with it in the vertical position, which I think if you're looking at the larger bowl that's passing around, I think that's where I started, yeah. The orange one at the top rim is where I started, and that's the vertical that we're going to be doing. When we're making a cut with this tool, okay, there it goes. When we're making a cut with this tool, we want to position the tool rest so that it is away from the work, because remember, we have to set the tool rest. This piece has to be setting on the tool rest like this to be able to see it. So I'm going to pull it back kind of far, because I want this to be sitting on the tool rest before it gets to this. Okay? I'm actually going to do the front rim with this, not here. This is not a perfect finish by any means. I just rounded it up when we were starting. Typically, if you're going to have a finished product when you're done, and you're not doing a demo piece, you really want to have the wood to basically the finish that you would like to see, so that you're not trying to go back and sand after the fact, okay? So we're going to move this over. Also, I'm supporting this work, supporting the bowl rather, with the tailstock, simply because this is not my chuck. I don't typically use this chuck. I don't know whether it's going to hold or it's not, so just for the safety's sake, I'm not going to be doing anything on the inside of the bowl. All we're going to do is show you some of the things you can do with this tool. And Dawn's going to let me know when I get close to my time, right? Okay. So we're putting it on the tool rest. I'm a little bit farther away, but all I'm going to do is bring this back this way as I turn it on. Speed-wise, you get a different pattern depending on the speed that you're using. You also can get a different pattern if I present it with just the tips, or if I present it full face, okay, or somewhere in the middle. When you are using this tool, in order to repeat what you're doing, as you bring this up, this wheel is going to start to spin. And if I want it to be a different texture, if I move this handle down like this, or up like this, typically you don't want to go too much higher, you're going to get a different pattern. And you have to play with this tool in order to learn what pattern you're going to get if you're going to try and repeat it. Who said that to me this morning? Or just a little while ago? Yeah, there he is. Couldn't repeat the patterns. I've tried to repeat them as well, and it really depends on the pressure that you're putting. It depends on how you're moving the tool this way and that. It's just, there's a lot of it too. But it doesn't have to be the same every time. Even if you're trying to make like earrings, you got one over here and one over here, you're never going to know the difference, okay? It does, using the same wheel, changes on inside to outside. It's kind of an interesting thing. we're flipping this over right now. I've got the bevel, which this is the cutting front. The whole thing will cut, but this is the edge where you typically are cutting. When I turn it 180 degrees, we'll get an opposite reaction, okay? So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna turn it on and give you an idea what this looks like to start off with. And I'm gonna turn about where I was. We're about it's about 650 roughly, 650 RPM. It's going to depend on what you want to use. I didn't go real fast. We'll go fast with the chatter tool. So it's going to make a interesting noise, and all I'm going to do, I didn't know it was going to do that. Okay, I didn't press real hard. Let me get the markers here so you can see the pattern. I don't think you're going to be able to see it without the markers, but you might. You'll notice, let's go for this. As we go across here, that the pattern changed as I went through it. Part of that is because of the way I was turning the wheel. Part of it is because of the approach here. But the interesting part, and you can kind of hear, the interesting part, okay, I didn't have it completely flat, but you can see that it kind of almost looks like it's a chatter tool. I'm going to take off the section over here and try and do it at a different speed so you can see at the same approach so you can see the difference that you get. Let's try that real quick. Okay, we've also got a little bit of an angle there, but this will give us another look at it. I'm going to reduce the speed just a little bit and see if we can get a different, same tool, different speed. I'm trying to get it, there we go, right about 300. Again, we're at the same point, and you're theoretically going to be cutting on this so that the cutter itself is a little bit above center. I just came up to the edge there. We're going to go just a little different color so you can see it. So similar, but a little bit different. When you are putting your work together like this, having that ridge was great. This is not completely round because I didn't clean up the inside. But you notice over here, there's kind of a ladder type pattern where you don't see, this one is kind of up and down more. So now that's with it vertical. I'm going to take it around the side, and we're going to be approaching it from this side now. But I'm going to move this over to about a 45-degree angle and give you the effect there. Again, we're using the one that has the most teeth on it. And hopefully, there we go. So I'm taking, again, with the indexing mark on the tool itself, and the hashtags over here. It's actually right there. And making sure that this is still below the cutout here. I'm tightening it down. Now, typically, when you're going on an edge, you're going to want the bevel of this to run the way you're going. In this case, I'm going to go the other way just to see what happens. Then we'll flip it all the way around and see the difference between the approaches. This is very similar to that bowl that's being passed around. I'm going to try to do just about, I don't know, maybe half an inch or so. It's a little bit farther out. And we're going to leave it at the 300, just because that's where it is. And bring this around. Typically, I'm just holding this down, and then I'm trying to move my body like this, okay? Okay. It's not a very, not a very large movement, but it does have a large effect. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but as I'm putting the color on, it sounds a lot like a chatter tool does. Okay.
Push the light back.
Yeah.
So it's,
how's that?
yeah, it's better.
Is that better? So it's kind of a almost like a hashtag type effect. I'm going to turn this around. Excuse me.
Okay.
I'll turn this around to exactly opposite where it is now. So it'll be a 45 degree on the other side. Again, I'm using the hash marks that are here, lining up the index here. This is, you know, it's just for fun and to give you a little opportunity to play with color. Okay, so now, as we're sitting here, we're going to go, I could do it backwards, but I'm going to go forwards just because that's the direction that I've got it facing. We're going to start here. Again, this is not a real smooth finish, so we're going to get a little bit of a change, but not too bad. And I just move the handle up a little bit. About there. So I'm watching the shadow as I go here, and what that did, go with the darker blue, what that did was show me, hopefully showed me, where my cut was starting and stopping. Should have come right up to there. So when I had it at 45 degrees that way, I got this effect. I switched it completely over, got 45 degrees here, and you could kind of hear as we're going through there, it just gives you a little bit of difference. Now, in a minute, I'm also going to show you, because we have this color already on it, I'm going to show you how we can use some other colors, some of the waxes to highlight that as well. You can use this tool. There's a whole bunch of different patterns you can get just from this one cutter head. I want to show you real quickly how you go and sharpen this, because that's something you're going to need to do. Let me grab over here.
Marie, can you make 2 passes on the wood?
You can, but if you make the second pass, and it's supposed to line up again, but I have not been successful at lining it up again. Typically what happens when you make the second pass is you get a kind of a muddied look to it.
Kind of like making 2 passes with a check.
Exactly. I don't suggest doing that. When you are doing, there's a spiraling, one of the cutter heads is for spiraling to actually create like barley twists and just beads. That one, you can line it back up. It will automatically line itself back up, but I find that the first one tends to get a little munched. Okay, so when you go to sharpen these, you can do this on a cutting wheel, but because you're going to do it and you're going, I really think that it's easier to do this with a hand just a diamond stone. So basically what you're going to do, I don't know if you can see this or not, you're going to line up with the angle that's already on here, and you're just going to go back and forth. You want to make sure that this one I just did, so it's going to be hard to see, but if you can't tell where you started, you can always take just a marker. You can cover the whole thing, or you can just make a line and start there, and then work your way all the way around to that line. Okay, so but what you're going to do, and you can do this by hand, this is the way you see me doing it here, which is, I can't really see the angle, or you can flip it around and do it this way. For whatever reason, I seem to do it better this way. So you want to work your way all the way around, and you're just going back and forth. Following the bevel that's already established. You don't have to do this, is not a huge effort. You don't have to do a lot of it. And you'll be able to tell if you've done enough just when you bring it back to the work. Like I said, I just did this one beforehand, but I want to show you how to do it. You can take it to a grinding wheel if you have the angle correct. Gently, you can take it to a grinding wheel and just leave it at that angle, and it takes nothing to do it. So for me, it's just, I feel safer using the diamond sharpening stone versus going ahead and taking it to the wheel. Okay, I'm betting that Dick could probably take it to the wheel with no problem at all. I want to show you real quickly how to change the wheels. Let me grab one of these. So these are the wheels that came with mine. This is the texturing wheel. So it's actually got a bevel on both sides. Sorry, like that. Is this better? So you would have to sharpen both sides. You can tell which side in the piece here, which side goes up and which side goes down, based on the, you have to put 2 washers in here and 1 washer here. I'll show you. When we go to take this out.
I bet you never dropped those washers in the sawdust either.
Not yet. Shh, don't jinx me. Okay. So this comes up. This comes out. It's the same. Yeah. Don't look at my toes. It's just a threaded screw. Don't be afraid to change them, just because Paul said that. So basically, the bevel is up. This is the only one that you might have a question on, since there's a bevel on both sides. 2 washers on top, 1 washer underneath. Slides in through here. This goes in. And what's going to happen is it threads itself at the bottom. You just tighten it back up. There. Now this is actually for texturing. What's cool about this is you're going to get like little speckles. Problem is they're pretty uniform. So because they were kind of uniform, because it's the same section, we were trying to figure out how to get more of a uneven speckled pattern. So that's how this one came to be. Take a look at this. One of the guys that was in the Chicago Woodturners, you can't tell that I've used it a couple times, was a machine guy, machine tool and die guy, and we told him what we were trying to do, and he came up with this. It's a very uneven disc, but what it does is it makes a different pattern, more like splatter paint versus this is more regimented. So I'll show you the difference between the two of them. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. I'm going to leave this one at the 45 degree where it was. we're just going to do, hang on, let me put this back in here. I don't want this falling. And yes, I do this every time I use it. I put it back because I'm afraid I'll lose it. Okay. And you can see the others that are here. This one just has a lot more. This one's the most wheels. This one's the next one, and then you got that. Okay. And you can make beads with these as well, with those two. And even this one, but this one's more for texturing. So what we're going to do is just put another line here. Again, the same situation. We're holding this flat on the tool rest, and we're just, what happened to my glasses? My glasses. Oh. Safety glasses. You're supposed to wear them. Okay. So, we're going to bring this up here and just move it. Should be, now this has a little bit of roughness to it. And that is not what I expected to happen. So, this is just a much wider angle. That's not at all what I expected to happen. You guys can see that I don't have to color that one? Okay. I'm going to use this one and give you an idea of the difference here. This is, I don't actually know what this is made out of, but it is just a jerry-rigged thing. It is on a bearing, and it doesn't, it's just all you get out of this tool. So this one, I go back and forth with this one because I specifically want the pattern having multiple spots. Let me see if I can show you that one a little better. So this one, the other thing that they suggest, I learned this from a guy at the AEW Symposium back in San Antonio. I don't remember what year that was. There, so you can see how this one just kind of pops out and gives you just a little texture effect, kind of like rain. But one of the things he suggested was when you're using this tool, in order to get the most benefit out of the effect, is to take and cut lines, leave some open space like this is, but I colored it, cut lines in between your patterns. It just kind of makes it more of an accent than having it be just all together like the bowls that I sent back there. If I do that, what you can see on the rim here, because I had two different levels, it kind of gave me the delineation mark. But if I took a skew or a gouge or whatever and did that here, then you get a completely different look. Let me just show you. And, excuse me. Sorry. So all I'm going to do is just put a little groove in here to give it the line definition. And I'm using the colors, even though that's not exactly where we want to be. Whoops. And I think that one is, and you can do it, you don't have to just do it with one line. You could literally do it with 2 lines if you want to, but what it's going to do is just give you that separation. Because I had the color there, it's not quite right, but this one gives you a better idea. And that offsets your texture, okay? You can, question is always asked, do I sand it, do I not sand it? It's going to depend on what you're looking for. This one here, putting my hand on that, it feels really rough, so I probably would take and just give it a quick sand before I put the color on it. And I'm not talking about much, just a little And now I don't have it. Just a quick little sand just to knock off the edges. On this one, if I did that on this one, what would happen is I would lose a little bit of the definition because it's not going that fast, but I'd lose a little bit of it. So all I did there was just take off, I didn't take away any of the pattern, I just took off the rough edges that were popping up. Okay, any questions so far? No? Okay. So I'm gonna switch this out, and I can pass this part around just so you can see the differences. The other wheels work the same, basically just giving you different patterns. What you see on that bowl is I literally took them and went all the way through it. So between the two bowls, you have all 4 of the cutter heads on there. What I'm going to do is put a piece of spindle stock on there, and we'll go ahead and actually, where's the spindle piece that I have that should be passing around? That one's already got a nice tender. I'll show you how to use the. How many of you have this tool at home? 1, 2, 3, yeah. How many of you have used this tool recently? Yeah. Not this one. Okay, not this one. There's another one. It's a short, Dawn. It looks like this. It's short like that. Okay. So hopefully I will have inspired you a little bit to go ahead and try to use it when you get home. Yes. So when Dawn and I were, before the symposium, the AW sends out a call to, they do every year, the AW symposium is Clarinet Challenge for the women in turning. This year, their Clarinet Challenge was on the spinning tops. So Dawn and I were like, let's get together, let's do it. I talked, pass that one around. I talked Brenda Bianchi and Julie Bassrath into doing tops as well. And so we just had a little fun. Well, Dawn came over to my house. We're like, hey, we want to do these tops. We should do some chatter work, right? We tried and 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 we could not. Like, I know I've done this before, but it had been so long since I, purposely did chatter work, not including the ones that I do accidentally on my bowls. But since I purposely did chatter work, it had been so long that I was having a hard time doing it. And so Dawn's like, you should demo this. Now that we've got it figured out, you should demo this for the club. So this whole thing started because the Women in Turning had a challenge for tops. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you really fast how this chatter tool works. This is, again, the texturing tool. Okay, these are patterns you can get from the texturing tool. This is chatter work. Chatter work is created when your tool, this is spring steel, actually vibrates. And what you're going to do is, we want it to vibrate, we want to do kind of a controlled, or at least a semi-controlled vibration in order to make a cool pattern. Right now, I can't do it because I've already got a pattern on there. So we're just going to clean that up and take off the pattern that's there. That's the nice thing about this. If you don't like the pattern that you get, you just start over. No big deal. And it works out pretty easily. It goes very quickly. You don't have to, no fuss, no muss. If you don't like it, take it off, do it again. Don't like it, take it off, do it again. And that is what once you like it, then you cut it off and you use it. If you take a look at the, use it for whatever. Those little discs that I was passing around, I kind of like those patterns. So in order to go ahead and get them, I wanted to preserve the pattern, which is kind of a joke because I can't ever repeat it. but I wanted to preserve the pattern, so I went ahead and cut it off, and now I'll put it into something. Just switch from one chuck to the other. I always want to check it, and it's going to, it doesn't have to be perfectly round in order to do this, because it's going to wobble anyway. But we don't want to throw it off and hit him in the face, especially because he's not paying attention. All right, so little wobbles, but all I'm going to do is clean this edge up and make it flat. This is hard maple. And by the way, when you're using the texturing tool or the chatter tool, hardwood is definitely preferable to a softwood. Okay, so we can agree that there's no chatter work on there at the moment, right? So you're also going to, with this tool, the tool itself, you're going to present it to the work. Basically like that. Tool rest is going to be off, back a little bit. This has to float free. We're going to bring it back and forth here. You can do it with the point, like this, and you'll get a much deeper, much more rough looking finish. You can do it with the this whole edge here and take it all the way across, which is going to give you a much finer spacing than this will. This is going to give you a good spacing, but it's really going to be, well, I'll show you. We'll do it this way for a little bit, and then I'll turn it so you can see it. Just have to make it so that when I go to turn it, it's not going to, we need this to be free, but I need to be able to move it so that it'll come across. So we'll start here, and this, for those of you who have hearing sensitivity, most likely I'm going to get some feedback here, just simply because this is going to literally squeal. And the other key to this is higher speed. When you have a higher speed, you get a better vibration, therefore a better pattern. So right now we're right about, hovering right around 1,000. So I'm going to do it with the point first, and all I'm doing is holding this and just started it there. And then I turned it to the side. So this is to the side, and the pointed one, which didn't give me a very good chatter, the point of it is in here. So you're going to see kind of spirals to start off with, and then not very good. So we're going to start over because it didn't give us the chatter we wanted. Again, that's the nice part about this. Move it forward, take it off, and we start over. Hear that? That's when you are cleaning up a chatter. What happens is, typically, you have to take light cuts in order to get rid of it, because your tool will actually follow the chatter marks that's at the end. Especially if you're doing it if you happen to make that chatter with your spindle gouge, because you're off the ways. When you go to try and clean it up, do not push in. Just take very light cuts at the top, so you just move it very, very gentle, light cuts. This is not quite high enough. Okay, now. So we'll try it again. That is the point. And this is going to be the whole edge. Screech. So the point we're going to do in the green, and the whole edge, we'll add a little orange. And then you should be able to see it. So the little bit of orange, you can probably see it better from this angle. Again, can you see it okay? You're going to get different patterns every time. But that's the general principle. You can also try to take it back this way, which is an interesting, I mean, it works. The other way you can do it is just go straight down like this, so that you're using, we'll do one more so you can see it. When you have to play with this tool to get it to be comfortable with, sorry, don't move the tool rest while the lathe's running. You have to be comfortable with the way that the tool feels. So it's just practice more than anything. Back to a clean palette. Move this back. Lift the tool rest up just a little bit. Go here. Okay. Now I'm going to take it on like a 45-degree angle instead of going straight across, and hopefully this will make a difference. Now, actually, we can start, and then we'll go this way. And a little bit different. This one should be a little better. So you got a nice little pattern there. Starts out as a spiral, and then it finally starts wobbling, and away you go. Okay, any questions on the chatter tool?
Marie, do you find a quarter sawn wood to perform the best for you, or spindle versus
End grain is
cross
the
grain?
most.
End grain?
End grain is the best for, you can't really do it on side grain, and I'm kind of open as far as quarter sawn or whatever. You just need to have end grain, spindle orientation in order to get this. When you're doing this, you can actually use the texturing tool either way. On the side grain, on the end grain, wherever you want to do it, the texturing tool is going to give you a different effect based on which
harder wood the better?
Definitely. You want the harder wood in order to hold the pattern. If it's soft wood, it just gets muddy. So I'm going to show you real quick what I do with the, I'll do it over the piece. The box that I sent around that was black. So when you put the finish on before you start, what happens is you can cut through the finish and you'll have a different look. Now, basically, the only reason I'm putting this on here is just to hold it so I can show you what I'm doing, because I know we got light here. I'm going to take, real quickly, and sand this just a little bit. Not that I need to, but this is, I inked this last night. I just want to have it a little flatter when I start. Just kind of a flat finish to it. And just to give you a little idea here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a couple of hand tools to show you how I got that finish on the black box where I cut through. That has a wax finish on it. So these are just little hand gouges. Again, we're just trying to get a different texture on this. So I have a couple here. One is a little V tool. You see that? Like that. So it's a little V. And this one is a little, just a little U. Okay. So we're going to do a couple of things really fast. How am I doing, Don? 5, 10 minutes. Okay. These are going to be really fast. So all we have to do with this, and I'm only using this way so that because I don't normally do this on the lathe. Usually I'll take this off the lathe and I have it in my hand. But you can kind of see the grain through this. So typically what I like to do, in a box orientation, the one that you saw there, I was going all the way around. But I'm going to try and follow, because I'm not going to do the whole thing. There's a grain line that's right here. So I'm going to try and follow this through on the smaller box that had natural finish and just that cool texture. That's what I did here. So all I'm doing is just a quickie, it's just a little bitty groove, okay? Not a lot, and it's very random. What? It doesn't take long. It's just a matter of, I'm doing this lefty because you're over there. I don't want to. But it's going, all it's going to do, where's my line? Yeah. All it's going to do is just give you a different color. If I had done some dye in this so that it would get into the wood grain to start off with, I would be cutting through the black, which is the surface coat, into the dye, so I would have black with the surface coat, and then if I chose, I could theoretically have put a little interference in there, and I'd have, oops, that one is a little too much. But you get the idea, right?
What's
So
the black finish?
this is actually, and I brought that, thank you for asking. This is actually water-soluble ink. It's for block printing. It works really well. It gives me a nice ebonized finish, and then you can put wax over it. Once it's dried, you can sand it just a little bit. You can put another layer on, but it gives it a nice finish. We've had this for, oh, I don't know, it's Speedball brand. Had it for a long time, and it's still probably that much, okay? It lasts and lasts and lasts.
Put it on with a brush or wipe it on?
I actually did this with a piece of the blue shop towel, just like that. I've used it with a roller, just like for a blotter. It depends on what I'm putting on. But for this one, I knew that I was just going to cut through to show you that.
Looks good.
So that's how to do it with the hand tools. Again, I use the little ones. You could use larger ones. It's just kind of depends on the look that you want to achieve. Putting this together, again, going right back to this, the grain line here. I can do it on here. I don't know if it's going to give me the same effect. This is just I think it's a Craftsman engraver. Typically, you want to use it for when you're working on, just writing your name or whatever. But my mom lived in Arkansas for a while, and I went to one of the Arkansas woodturners. I happened to be down there when they were having a show. And this guy said, I saw this texture, and I went, that's cool. I wonder how he did that. And he was sitting there. He said, well, I can tell you because it's my piece. And he says, I'm just using an engraver. So since then, and on one of that walnut box that you did, I used to do a lot of it. All I do is just take and I can pretty much do whatever I want to do. And all I'm doing, in this case, is making circles. But for coolness, comes in just a second. I'll show you how to, it's colored wax, which Molly Whitney got me started on in Turn Chicago 2 years ago. One of the really cool things about when you're participating and you go to see these other turners, Turn Chicago has given me so many ideas of things to do for my work. And it's just fun to try the different techniques. And every single demo that I've been to, I have learned something. So I can't encourage you enough. If you haven't decided to go, you can even go for a day. Although last year, it's pretty funny. I had a guy tell me, yeah, I only came for one day, and now I didn't know what to expect, and now I'm kicking myself because I should have been there for more. Okay, so what I got there is just, and this is, it's called metal luster. It's just a wax. But the cool part is, this wax, you can get it on your finger. It just comes like that, and you can just hit the top of it. And then all of a sudden, your texture is now not only texture, but it is a feature. So basically, what I did here took me, well, you saw, it didn't take very long, but I magically got a whole nother look to this piece that you might not have been expecting. And the nice part about that is if I turn it on, even though I haven't locked this down, so I can do it just this way, but if I happen to be, I happen to have it all the way around, I can take it and spin it, turn the lathe on, and just hold it against there, and it shines up. So
your wax is just on the high part, it's not.
Yep, it's just on the high part. But if I spin it in this case, because I have the other ink there, I haven't played with it to know if it will bleed, so I'm not going to do that on this one. But it is showing you the pattern a little better. Okay, and this is water soluble. The finish is water soluble. So if I took and had a little water here, I could literally give it a whole nother texture just from, it kind of makes it look whitewashed, and then once it dries, you can shine it. And then it feels like porcelain. Kind of cool. And this stuff comes in all different colors. I can tell you right now that you are never, ever, ever going to be able to use it all up. I've been playing with this one for a while, and it just keeps going. Let's see if it'll shine for me. So that just, okay. Let me see. As far as the Dremel tool, let's see what else I got. I had a couple more things I want to try. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. I have a couple of other ways to texture over there, but I think the time is up, and hopefully that you guys got something that will push you to bring something with texture on it to one of the next couple meetings. I still got 5 minutes. Any questions?
I have a question.
Oh, shoot.
So from a safety standpoint, is this like the Grandma Criddle approved footwear?
It is. It absolutely is. If you're in New Zealand, it's definitely improved. Yeah, you don't want to stand in the way with your flip-flops on. Sorry. I wasn't thinking about it. I changed into pants, I guess. What was that?
If you drop the tool point down.
Yeah, that would be a problem. That would definitely be a problem. So, it kind of gives you a fun little thing you can do with it. And if you can do the same thing with the Dremel tool and just dots, and then you'd hit the highlights, and it looks even better. Okay, if there's no more questions, I had to bring up the tool.